Baba Booey. A little golf clap there.
Wow. Well, welcome everybody back. Jim, you might as well stand in the shot rather than half in and half out.
Well, I was over here because you told me to stand.
I know. That's good.
And then you told me, now you want to stand on the middle.
The first thing Andy will tell you is never listen to anything everyone says. So, welcome everybody. Welcome back to segment 3 of our Mastermind Day. This will be our last segment, as we will have to wrap up around 3:45 on live, so that we can get people out the doors to their flights and that type of thing.
Can I mention something that I learned last night?
Yeah. No, you really can't. Sorry. Go ahead. If you have to.
So last night we had a little dinner gathering.
Yeah.
Pam Hendrickson and Chris Hendrickson came down. It was fantastic to see them and see her up and about and joining in on the conversations. And I was just so happy to see them. But one thing, and I'm probably the only one who didn't know this, but Chris and I were chatting about his time at Tony Robbins, and he says, when Tony Robbins talks about the waiter that he met early on and then brought into his organization and ended up giving him a job, that's Chris Hendrickson. Yeah. I did not know that. Why didn't you ever tell me that?
Where you been?
I look like a fool.
No,
bam.
No, that was not the reason.
But I had no idea that he is the one that he tells the story about, and I've heard that story so many times.
Yeah, and Chris is just an amazing guy.
He is amazing.
Guy,
I just wanted to say, if they're watching, it was great having them there last night, and just really appreciated their presence, and they're awesome. I love them.
So here's what we have on deck for this segment is Jim Butz. Jim Butz talked with us on, really he's been keeping abreast of a lot of technology changes. And so we kind of tapped him to share some of the things that he felt were most important, to just kind of condense his learning and knowledge into a presentation here for us. And then I guess I threw him a curve when I told him, when I said on air the other day, that this was not just about technology but also longevity. Mm-hmm. And so and Jim's just such a great guy. He's just like, I'm going to roll with that. That's fine. We'll do
a couple more slides.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah. And Jim is one of these guys. So you first came to our second Yosemite retreat.
Yes.
And he got there early, like a couple hours before anybody else. Mm-hmm. We got there early to set up, and then I just kind of sat down and got to know Jim a little bit. And I was just floored, completely blown away at the depth and breadth of his knowledge. And Jim is not a brash person. He's not. He doesn't get out and get in people's face so they will know how smart he is. But when he says something, you're like, wow, that's just amazing. So that's why we tapped Jim to do that. We're gonna be stealing after Jim. We're gonna steal Bruce up here a little bit to talk about a book he created. And we'll see what else we have time for during that. So, anything else you want to say?
No, you said it all.
All right,
Jim's fantastic. If you're ever in an event, you got to connect with Jim.
Yeah, absolutely. Go out of your way to meet him.
Yep,
really great guy. So, Jim, pick up that clicker there.
Yeah, I'm not going to need the clicker right away.
All right, stand on that T to make our producer happy.
By the way, it was really good that this slide popped up, because this slide is like really important. All of us would like to have a competitive advantage. And this is a quote I picked up from Peter Diamandis. And he contends that when you can anticipate change and understand what's coming in terms of technology, resources, and human capital, you can create the ultimate advantage. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to share some things about what's coming along to get us started about thinking about what's happening with technology so we can sort of anticipate it. Now, there was a couple slides that I didn't get to put in because of, I thought I put them in, but I didn't. And it's really talking about longevity. But before I talk about that, something that no one knows, because I never had an occasion to tell somebody about it, is that Yosemite event that I went to, if you remember, anybody who was there, I had a problem with my toe because I almost lost it, but I didn't. And you were going to go walking up and down the mountain on Saturday, and I said, it's not going to happen. And don't be concerned, because I'm going to spend some time looking at some stuff. And that was the time that my wife sent me something called AES Nation, which was John Bowen's PDF of interviews, and the second interview was with Dan Sullivan. And Dan Sullivan was the guy who got me started when he said, so, John Bowen said to him, so I understand you got a 25-year plan. And I said to myself, wait a minute. I'm 68, he's 71, he's got a 25-year plan. Maybe I need a 25-year plan. And then he started saying some other things, and he started talking about, well, you know I'm going to live till like some ridiculous age. Now I got to learn about that. And then I found out that he and Peter Diamandis had a podcast, and I started listening to that, and then I started following Peter Diamandis and taking courses with Peter. So the genesis of that was that group. Right? So you can take credit for it. So if you have a reason to join this group, it can change your life like it did mine.
We felt bad because you kind of you stayed behind.
Look, I got to tell you, I learned so much during that time frame, and then I just continued learning because it was like, this is ridiculous. I mean, you hear Peter Diamandis talk, and he'll say, Dan Sullivan would say to him, so Peter, how long do you think you're going to live? And he would say, 120. And Dan said, but that's not really how long you think you're going to live, right? And he said, yes, but every time I tell it, people just think I'm nuts. Okay, but it's just the two of us. You know, we're on a podcast, right? So it's just the two of us. So how much really? And he said, 700. And he said, by the way, when I say that, you understand when I say 700, I mean I can live forever. Now you really have my attention, and I wanted to know why he thought that and what was going on. And I'll talk a little bit about that in terms of longevity. One of the things you have to understand is the group of people that he puts together in his Abundance 360 group is 360 corporate titans and industry legends. And what they do is, whenever it talked about the Mastermind and how you get together and you talk about stuff and you break up into small groups, that's exactly what they do. So that instead of going to the federal government waiting for something to happen, these people, like in Elon Musk and Google, get together and decide they're going to put balloons in the stratosphere, get them to spin at the same rate of the Earth, and they're going to deliver gigabit Ethernet internet services for free. For free. And if you think that's going to start soon or in the future, they're already doing it in Africa. The other thing is, Google started to roll out fiber in Silicon Valley, and the cable companies started to hammer him. So he said, screw it. So they're putting balloons up there. They're going to put the cable companies out of business. So those are the kinds of things that you get to talk about. So longevity is really the basis for an extended lifespan. And you know, you can go initially 150 and on. But I started looking at things and saying to myself, okay, so how is all that going to occur? Because right away you're figuring to yourself, what could possibly happen with this? So there's a couple of things that happen. One of them was, there's a genomics revolution. There was in reading DNA, and then in writing DNA, and the big one is editing DNA. And Craig Venner, who's Peter's partner in a lot of different things, including the Health Nucleus organization, he was the first one to actually take the genome apart in 2001, and it cost him $100 million. I mentioned earlier today, I ran into a guy named David Duncan, who is the Experimental Man. That's his book. I had a long conversation with him, and he said that he took every test that was available, and having his genome sequence cost him $300,000. A couple years ago, if you wanted the test that we just paid $3,000 for, it was $25,000. And now it was $3,000 for us to get this. Imagine what's going to happen in the next 3 or 4 years. So the reading of DNA was one. Writing of DNA is taking a little bit more time. Editing DNA, 2 women. All you women should be happy about it. It's 2 women. They created a product called CRISPR. And the most current version is CRISPR-Cas9. It's a gene editor. So what do you think you can do with a gene editor? So it ended up, remember Angela Jolie, she had a double mastectomy because she had BRCA. Well, one of the things you can do with a gene editor, if your family has that and they look at your genome, they can go in and remove the BRCA gene from your position, so you never have that anymore. In China, they're using it to treat cancer. They're taking out gene cells. But if they edit it, they can also put in gene cells. So if you say, I'm going to live to 150, anybody seen the pictures of the guy that's 147? He looks like a prune and he's all slunched over. So that's what people have in mind of what they're going to look like. And in fact, their view is, no, we're going to edit genes to get you back to where you were around 35 or 40 years old. More importantly, we're going to resequence your body, because for 10,000 years, we've been working on feast or famine. And we all know what that means. I'm a person of it. You know, you eat too much and it just stays there, right? Well, when they redo it, what you're going to do is you're going to eat what you need and excrement the rest of it. So it's not going to be there. So you're going to feel like you're in 35 and 40 years old, and you're going to be 35 or 40 years old. There's also some anticipated breakthroughs. One of them is, when I learned these things from Peter, one of the things he said was there's three things that we had to deal with. The first of it was cardiology and heart attack. That's really pretty much taken care of. If you have a heart attack now, it's your fault. It's something that you weren't doing. And by the way, even if you get something, you want to fix it, it's very easy to fix. The second one was cancer. You had to be able to fix that. And there's a concept called a moonshot. It was started by President Kennedy when he talked about going to the moon. And recently, Astro Teller, who's the head of the R&D organization for Google, has adopted this. And a moonshot is get a group of people together to solve a really big problem, engage as many people as you need, and clear it out. Joe Biden signed up to handle the moonshot for cancer with the intent to eliminate cancer by 2020 because of what happened to his son. The third one you have to deal with is Alzheimer's. A couple years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of money being put into Alzheimer's. Now there's hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions. And they're getting some real breakthroughs on what's happening. So within the next 5 or 6 years, they're going to do away with Alzheimer's. When you get through to those three things are under control, the next thing you have to do is say, okay, so what else can happen? All right, so, you know, your pancreas goes bad. You're going to die, although there is an artificial pancreas now. My endocrinologist held it last year and told me about it. And it worked. And I said, so Steve Jobs, it's just a little too late to get it, right? And he said, yes. What they're doing now is less in the United States, more outside the United States. In Europe, in the UK, there's a woman. And she's working with gorillas, monkeys, and pigs. She's taking their stem cells, recreating new organs for them, replacing their existing organs, and they're doing fine. Which means that you can now, in the future, if you need a new part today, you get on a transplant list, and even if you make it, what you have to do is take shots for the rest of your life, or that you could, you know, not be able to use it anymore. This is your own organ, so they'll be able to put it in. So that's one of the first big breakthroughs. It's going to take some years, but as I said, this woman in the UK is doing really well with it. In the US, the problem's the FDA. The FDA was put together to make sure that nothing happens to people, so they become extremely cautious. However, they have approved some things, and I saw the other day that there was a very bad victim child with burn, and they took his stem cells and created a new skin layer to put over it. And it's his own stuff. Now that's some really very, very, very cool stuff. Genome sequence, by the way, the early trials are going on today for a lot of that stuff. It's anticipated 2028 is when this will be more commonplace. Genome sequence is another thing. When you're able to do some of that now, you can add 30 to 40 years of lifespan by having your genome sequenced and finding out what's hidden there. And I'll actually use Nikki's words. I heard her say this not too long ago. I might be able to solve whatever this is by just eating differently because I know of it so early. But it's really big. You just think 40 years. I'll talk about that in terms of what happens now if you put 40 years on your life. And I told there's a moonshot for cancer and a moonshot for Alzheimer's. So what does expanded life mean to us? So it's 2018. If we put 40 years on it, that's 2058. Now, I don't know if that's going to scare anybody, but let me explain something. I got this from the Fed. The average retirement account balance in the U.S. is $59,000. Now that should really scare the hell out of you, since the anticipated cost of healthcare is going to be $200,000. But then more importantly, what do you think the probability of pension plans existing that long? Is Social Security going to be around? Is Medicare, Medicaid going to be around? Probably not. So the question then is, so what options do we have? And this affects us as a group more than anybody. If I sat down with somebody individually and said, let's talk about sort of your future. What kind of assets do you have? What they generally tell me is, well, I have my house. I have my car. I have some rental and some vacation property. I have art, jewelry. They give me all this stuff. And when they're done telling me, I say, you do understand that everything that you mentioned, the value of it is not controlled by you. You control the ownership, but you can control the value. How is your house valued? Comps in your area. If comps go down, your house goes down. So the next thing that I really want to do is have people start to think very differently about things that they call assets. We are all content creators. Our jobs are, we are problem solvers, and the way we solve problems is we understand them, create content, and distribute it. The guy from Kajabi, I think it's Travis, I opened up an email one day, and he's there, and he starts to talk. And he said, the most valuable thing that we own is in our heads. And I thought, this is going to be a really great conversation. But he didn't go any further. And I wanted to yell at him, it's only valuable if you get it out of your head and into some media. And then once it's in media, somebody yesterday was talking about what they had, and they mentioned the term assets with their books. You need to talk about everything you're doing in terms of content as an asset. And then you need to manage it as an asset. And then the next thing we need to do is train our clients about how to do that also. I know that there will be people that say, well, so I got content I created today, so what happens in 20 years from now? Okay, so what could happen to it? Think and Grow Rich. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Business and personal books that have been around because they had a great message for years and years and years and years. We need to start doing that and creating some content with it. And making sure that we treat them as assets. So the next thing that we want to be able to do if we're doing this is we need to reach a much broader audience. Because right now, I remember back in the sort of like mid-'80s, I was a consultant. And when we were trying to figure out what our territory was, we took a compass. Anybody remember compass, right? And we take a map out, and we put the point in the map, and we say, well, it's got to be within the 2-hour drive. You move it out, and you draw a circle around. That was it, because everything you did was one-on-one. It's not that way anymore. So the other thing that's interesting is if you want to be a billionaire, everybody thinks that's really difficult. And Diamondo's thing is, look, find a problem that affects 1 billion people, solve it, and charge them $1. How about finding something that affects 300,000 people and charging them $10? So there's a way to be able to do that, but then there's some constraints. Like there's constraints about language and some other stuff, and there are developments going on right now by some of the smartest people in the world to eliminate most of those. I looked at, this is some of the things that are happening like right now. They're going to be coming out and affecting people in 2019 and 2020. There's 6 areas: artificial intelligence, holographic video, augmented reality, virtual reality, gigabit internet, and real-time language translation. Now, those might really sound foreign to you, but I can tell you that's not true. So technologies, oh, that's nice. I had it nicely formatted, but it decided not to. Who cares? So technologies are expanding, and really at breakneck speeds. And one of the ways that they're expanding is because companies, unlike what they've ever done before, are giving us access to stuff. I was with Bell Laboratories and AT&T, and we were IBM's biggest client outside the federal government. They refused to tell us anything. until it was time. They were very guarded in things. In today's world, artificial intelligence, you probably heard of Watson. Watson is their AI computer. It's beat both of the people who were the biggest winners on Jeopardy, and it just beat the master of Go. And here's the thing that's interesting you might not know. It's in the cloud. You want to use it? Go for it. They will allow you to have access to it, and if you know how to program for AI, you can use it yourself. If you don't, they will point you to some people that can help you. They charge you some money. But that computer is available to you right now. The next generation of computers is something called quantum computing. And quantum computing is you put a problem up, and your computer's starting to run out of gas. It just starts adding more computers and more computers and more computers. Intel is coming out with a new card with a quantum computer chip on it. So now quantum computing is really cool. Guess what? IBM's got a quantum computing solution, and they give you access to it if you want it. And that link right there will take you to a video that you can watch, and it'll tell you how to get access to it. One of my clients, I told him about this, and first he did the AI, and he got in and he was using Watson. He is now, I'm helping him migrate to a new business model, he is now creating content and doing speeches and talks for people like O'Reilly in artificial intelligence, and he didn't know what it was 6 months ago. But he was able to get in, understand it, understand how it fit where he was going, what he was trying to do, and get to work with it. The other thing that's really sort of interesting is, Everett said yesterday when he was talking about the Mastermind idea, is we talk and we get together with teams and you start to work with stuff. That's actually true, but there are bigger organizations, like Diamandis has a group called Abundance 360. And 360 is the number of people that are in the group, and it'll never be more. And the moment that it's less, they go to the list and put somebody else in there. These are really captains of industry. I actually paid for it, but I had the ability to go sit through 3 days of their meeting 6 weeks ago. And they were talking about a lot of things. And these were people that they would come in and they would talk about life expectancy, and somebody would be up there talking about it. As a benefit to you, unfortunately, if you're watching this, this isn't up to you, because they can't create that many of them. I understand that if I talk to you about something and all of a sudden you say, well, that's great, let me Google it, that's death. Because you have no idea whatever you click on. I don't know how many people know this, but Google from its inception decided that there were two ways to respond to a search. By timeliness, or the relationship of the date and nature of the data. And actually, I heard Marissa Mayer talk about this. And she said they were in a dead heat with 9 people about which way should they go. And finally, somebody said to them, we have 100,000 users, let's go ask them. So they asked them, and 90% of them said, relation to the information. So you might get something when you click on it that's from 1972, when the most reasonable thing would be something that was in 2018. So you wouldn't be able to see that. So one of the things that I did was, in order to facilitate this, to stimulate it, I have a series of hard drives here that I created, and you each get one. This presentation I'll put up on a website because I don't have all the slides there. I put 3.5 gigabits of information in each one of these things, including presentations and videos from the January Peter Diamandis thing, from a course that I took with him called Exponential Abundance, and from some other places. And it's sort of categorized so you'll be able to use it, but it'll give you some idea and ability to see, first of all, when somebody's talking about something, it might have been from 6 weeks ago, so you know that it's real. This is not something coming out from 1984. So you can each have one of these. When you're doing this, the best minds in the country are helping it, and it's happening that things grow exponentially. And when you're doing things and growing it exponentially, I want to talk about the difference between linear and exponential. So linear growth, if you think about your business and you want to talk about what kind of growth you're going to have next year. If you say I'm going to grow at 10% or 20%, that's linear thinking. You don't have to think about the future. And generally, whatever solution you come with means you're going to work harder, because that's the way it works. Exponential growth is you're going to pick something that's so significant that there is no way in hell that you can do it by yourself. So you have to start thinking about the future and your teams and how they're developed. Let me give you an example of that. We all have heard about this at one point in time. When somebody says to you, I probably had when I was 12 or 15, what would you rather have, $1 million or a penny every day doubled for a month? And everybody says about $1 million. Just so you know, 31 days, that's worth $10,737,418.25. That's exponential. Now you talk about AI and apps. One of the things that they're talking about, because I heard some things talking about, well, what about my team? How am I going to do this? Somebody said, what about it's not going to work well unless I have a great project manager. Well, AI is going to be very, very quickly to the point where if you wanted to do something, you would put together your program or your whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. And the first thing you would engage is an AI app. And you feed all the concept of your AI app into your AI app. And you can even say inside of it, well, I want to hire some real people, and here's the qualifications. Because there's data that supports, rather than hire someone local, if it costs you 5 times more or 10 times more to hire the best person in the world, you're better off spending the money for the best person in the world. Because they'll do it faster, better than anything else, without any extra cost. So what happens is you upload that app and get it to execute. As that app's executing, guess what it can do? Spawn other AI apps. And say, hey, look, here's you over here, you're really good at HR. Take all the AR issues. You over here, find the best people for us to deal with. And instead of waiting for like 6 weeks for the first meeting, overnight, you're going to get results that you can start working on immediately. That's exponential. So when you're looking at some of the things that are happening with some of these technologies, the way that it's being developed are the best minds. You'll see, and if you look at some of these videos, the 360 people that were in the Abundance 360 course, or the Abundance 360, somebody's really interested in AI, they'll find 2 other people that are at the head of AI, they'll get together and start to put together a group, and they'll do a moonshot or they'll do something to be able to do it. And every one of these people, which I find really interesting, probably because they're all multimillionaires or billionaires, they're not interested in creating something to corner the market to change the highest prices. Most of them will tell you what they're trying to do, just like Elon Musk and Google, who want to drive the cost of gigabit internet capabilities to 0, so do these people want to. Is when Diamanda says, look, figure out something that affects 1 billion people, solve it and charge $1. That means everybody can afford it. So let me talk about some other things. When you go back, because I don't think that I can make that work, if you'll click on this thing that's 7D Tech, there's an example of a holographic video, and it will blow your mind because it's of a gymnasium, and everybody's sitting there, and all of a sudden a giant whale jumps out of the floor and splashes and scares everybody. So it's not that it was superimposed. They actually thought they saw that. That's what holographic video is all about. The first movie theater with holographic video is now open. It's in LA. It's down the street from Grauman's Chinese Theater. And what this guy does is he takes events that have been recorded, and he takes the primary person out of the event and creates a hologram out of it. So I saw one that was a Maria Callas event where she's been dead for, I don't know, 30, 40 years. But they took her out, they created a hologram, they invite people in, they pay to come in to see her show, and they got a live orchestra behind her. People believe that she's standing there singing. That's holographic video. Now, it's going to be, and the other thing about, how fast will it get down to something where we can all afford? This week at South by Southwest, Peter Diamandis is talking about an X Prize. An X Prize is his way of putting $10 million contests together. And it's being announced. I have a flyer on it, and I think I actually put the flyer on the drive, where they're talking about telepresence, which is actually Cisco's definition of holographic video, and robotics. So there's going to be people working on getting these things together. My first introduction to, I knew about holographic video since like 1982, but in order to do it, you needed computing power that didn't exist and bandwidth that wasn't available. But nowadays, I saw this in 2008, and it was Guy Kawasaki, who I saw he was talking about, he said, you know, I just saw something that blew me away, and I don't care, I want it, because if I get this, I'll never get on an airplane again. And the thing that he was doing was, John Chambers was in India in an auditorium with 900 people, and he's talking about what Cisco's doing. There were 900 Cisco engineers, and he talked about it. And he said he introduced two of his C-levels, and they walked out and they stood beside him, and he was talking about them, and people were looking at them and walking around them. They weren't there. They were in Cupertino. On Peter Diamandis' event in January, one of the first segments was him and a woman, and they introduced Tony Robbins. Now, what I didn't like about what they did with Tony was they made him significantly bigger than he really was. They could have made him his regular size, but he looked like he was in that meeting. And everybody in there thought that he was there, except that he was really big. This, when you get this, this makes you accessible any place in the world. You know, I actually have somebody I work with, Rogério Amato, and he's in Brazil. And Rogério wants me to come down to Brazil and do a live event. And I say to him, I don't want to travel a day and a half and then be there. And by the way, I don't speak Portuguese. What I'd really like to do is have access to this. And if he's putting on a show, we'll connect. I'll walk out and I'll stand on the stage, and I'll have half of the problem because they're going to think I'm there. What's the next half of the problem? I don't speak Portuguese, right? So guess what? Real-time language translation. Microsoft, Google, it's dropping out of my brain, but I'll get it in a second, are actually working. There's a number of people working on real-time language translation. Now, if you want to try Microsoft's real-time language translation, go to them and ask them. They'll put you onto their website. I did. And I can't speak a different language, but Rogério used it. And he came back and I said, well, what do you think? He said, I had extremely low expectations when I started. After using it, it's not bad. And in 18 months, it'll be ready for prime time. So now you think about this. You now can be any place, and you now can do, you talk English, and it gets translated through the network to whatever places you're going. And then their questions come back to you in English. How big is the universe you can go after at this point? This is like absolutely nuts. Now then, the next thing you can do is you have artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and augmented reality, and you start adding that to it. I saw a demonstration where the idea was, and it might have been Peter who was talking about this. He said, imagine you have a conference going on, and the person who enters the conference, who's in the conference, decides to go in, and they walk into your room, and you're sitting behind a desk, and they sit down, and they think you're talking one-to-one, and you have a conversation. They have no idea that there's 100,000 people on this call. That's the capabilities. And you might think that, like, okay, so this is Flash Gordon. Yeah, but it's Flash Gordon today if Flash Gordon started yesterday and we're here. So there's some really very interesting things that you can do with this stuff. By the way, with the millennials, I had my first experience of being in a conference call with a group of millennials. I don't understand them at all. And people tell me I'm smart, but I'm just not that smart. I mean, they were talking to these women saying, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? And one of them said, well, suppose you need to take a break during the day. And Marissa Brasfield, who's Peter's EA, said, well, if I'm in my office, I put on my VR set and I turn on my computer and I start painting in the sky. Imagine that. You can start doing those kind of things. I actually had the pleasure of meeting the first person who got Oculus Rift when it was still not a whole complete unit, because I put together something on gaming up in Corona, and his shop is in Corona, and he was talking about the experience. So you can do a whole lot of stuff and change the experience by adding virtual reality and augmented reality. And you can start thinking about, what can I do with that, and how can I make that even richer? And by the way, if you're doing things, as it says here, you can be doing things and having AI bots create other AI stuff to even enrich the presentation as you're going along. And now you add to that the global gigabit internet. And you say to yourself, if these things are solved, how many problems do I have? None. You have a ton of opportunities you'll have to be able to take advantage of. So, for me, next steps. I think it's really important that even if some of these things are available, some of them are not available. I mean, Pokemon Go, I was in Escondido walking around on a Sunday afternoon, and there was these, they weren't young, they were older people, and they're walking around with their phones like banging into each other. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And Pokemon 2, whatever the heck, came out, and they were doing virtual and augmented reality inside of it, right? You need to be able to start looking at these technologies and thinking about how they fit into your business. And then, and then you can partner. This is a really smart group of people that if we want to start doing things, we can start putting together our own little groups of people to be able to look at stuff. And I don't care if everybody competes with me. It's a big world. So we have a meeting place that we can get together. We can easily have affinity groups that we can put together. And we will be able to do our own stuff with it. And what I really would like people to do is have things available and creating assets that are really valuable, that will last a long time. And I think that's my last slide. That's my last slide. Yeah.
All right, stay here. Don't leave.
No.
Here, you stand in the middle. Andy's going to come up here too.
Well, I had the benefit of working in a career where I was in product management, never worked on a product, never introduced a product that existed. I was always working on the next generation products.
Wow. Okay.
Scoot to my right.
So we brought this up for you in case you were thirsty.
Oh, actually, I just had some food on my
Then I'll
throat.
set it over here. Awesome. So, Jim, as you talk, this stuff just starts sinking in to me.
I know.
Like, I've heard some of these things casually said before, but it starts to actually sink in and own it. Yeah, like when you start to own stuff, that's when you start to take action, right?
Right.
What do they say? Belief precedes, or conviction precedes belief, belief
It all
precedes
starts with me
action.
with curiosity as opposed to belief.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, let me give you that before I steal it.
You picked up my pen and said, it's really nice. They said it's $300.
And then I really
It was
really
$200
picked it
a
up.
minute ago. Now it's $300.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't
Wow.
know. It went up in price because you touched it.
He is a venture capitalist. He knows a good investment.
All right.
when he sees
Yeah,
one.
Called augmented reality.
So yeah, that's it.
No, it's virtual reality in this one.
It's been augmented, indeed.
What would you like to know?
So let's.
Brendan, you go to slide.
What's that?
This slide on.
Oh, he's got the. I think he's not on our. He's
camera.
got it up there. He's
It's
left
not
that
on
for
the
you.
front camera.
Somebody just said it was stuck on the slide. So.
Oh, okay. Well, Brendan, if you can make sure it's on us, I think it already is. But yeah. Very good. I was jotting some notes down there just in regards to application, and of course, just as I finished jotting my notes, you came up with that last slide, which was application, right? And so I think about it. We do our mastermind calls every 2 weeks using Zoom, and before that was Blue Jeans, and before that was Zoom again, and before that it was stuff like GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar. And before that, it was conference calls. Skype was Skype, and before that was conference calls. And you think about just how the technology has changed. We talked in an earlier segment about how the barrier of entry to do multi-person on-camera interviews with people around the world is non-existent at this point, right?
Sure.
That at a drop of the hat, with no preparation and maybe an investment of under $50, we could be having these international gatherings virtually.
And we'd all show up as holograms.
And that's what my mind is tripping on.
You can do that.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Except then we went, we could put on the virtual reality masks. And
there you go.
we could put on our virtual reality masks and we can all be climbing the mountain. You too.
So the thing you have to remember is your version of what you would put on is based on 2017, 2018 products. Eventually what they're talking about is coming down with something that looks like Google Glass that provides the same kind of capability, so it's not covering everything. So, but it's the same concept.
Yeah, how would that change interaction with each other? Because we're here live, face to face, and we can have pizza together at lunch and drinks together at night, and that type of thing. And I don't have any doubt that we could meet virtually using the holographic technology and conduct the business meeting that we're having. How will that affect social interaction if we attempt that?
So, you really need to look at the application. If I were going to look at the application, I would say we have people that we know that are in Australia. And let's say they're having a live event.
Yeah, Nobby and Graham are watching right now.
Yeah, right. So they are going to have a live event. And they would like you to appear on their event. You want to fly there? Or would you go, well, what day is it? Because all you're going to figure out how to do is you're going to be in your office. You're going to have your setting, whatever you wanted to see in the background. And you're going to be there like you're live on stage without leaving your office.
So this is somewhat akin to the conversation people had probably 20 years ago about video conferencing.
Oh, yeah.
About meeting by video, right?
Yeah. Actually, I participated in, AT&T brought out the first video, multi-point video service, and they had 4 high-level people on that. I was one of them. I was on for the first 4 issues of it. And I hated video when it first went on. And then when I finally went back and got off of that project, the first conference that I got on, we walked into a room and there was a telephone sitting in the middle of the table. And I said, where's the video hookup? And they said, what? So I said, come on, we got to get the video stuff in there. So yeah, things change. People have to adapt to it. And one of the things that's really important is to understand what's happening and what's available. And see, I'm going to try to get my hands on stuff as soon as I possibly can. And then as I do that, we can figure out, so what works? You really don't want to do something just for the show of doing something, because that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
You're never going to get away from how do you make it seem like somebody's in the room? There was a group that's put together at AT&T that started to look at meetings and groups and group interactions. And one of the things that they came back with was the meetings and groups only worked if among the initial gets-togethers were in person. So you got to see, touch, and feel the people. Then they worked. If they did it where nobody did, there were all kinds of problems. So there'll be things that are working on, and there'll be human issues that people will be looking at.
I think of that in regards to just this group. Our first meetings were in person at retreats. Yosemite or Dominican Republic or Carmel, Victoria, whatever. But those in-person ones glued us together so that now we could handle the less personable contact that happens over video conference. Right. So yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that it's what we call social media is anything but social. Right. It's I call it anti-social media because it's really what it is. It disconnects us. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if this virtual reality, augmented reality, whatever you call it, the holographic video, if that really can bridge that gap and allow us to really have the social interaction that makes this work.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing that I saw when I was watching what John Chambers was doing was he could have had his 2 C-levels come on some sort of a video feed or something. But the fact that they came and walked out on the stage and stood next to him had a bigger impact. So how much impact do you want to make? Is this something you would use all the time? No, but there will be cases where we'll put together and say, look, if we're going to do X, Y, Z, like for example, you might not use all of it. You could have a live stream of some kind and use real-time language translation to just do a live cast or some sort of a webinar or a podcast. You could do those kind of things, a radio show, and that makes sense. So all those things won't be used all the time, but for what you're doing, that's why I said, look at it and figure out what technologies you would piece and put together. Yeah.
I'll just give you two examples. A friend of mine's brother sells steel to the auto companies in Mexico, and it's so dangerous that they can't really send their salesmen there. So what they do is they built, Cisco Systems built these virtual or holographic rooms, and the salespeople and the engineers all can stand in the same place, and the resolution is just unbelievable. Well, and they can all have a meeting.
One of the things I didn't like about what they did was they went from the real holograms to a product like you saw with telepresence. I don't know if you realize this, but you hear things now about 4K TVs, now 8K TVs. This is all based on how much the human eye can actually determine. And if you're at 4K or higher, your eye can't make the decision, is this live or is it a television screen I'm watching? And they decided to go that route, which I think really sort of detracts from a lot of the stuff that was going on. It's fine, they're making a lot of money, but...
And then the other example is my daughter, before she's now working at Amazon, was working at Tool North America, which is the top commercial production company in the United States for making commercials. And they had a whole division of doing the augmented reality. Most of it was for millennials. So you'd take your phone, you walk into a store, and you'd point it at vegetables, and you get recipes, and you point it at information. And so they're currently, right now, generating all kinds of content where you just go into places and it just comes spitting up as you walk along through it. So
one of the cool things I've been seeing is surprisingly wine. On the labels, you pointed at the wine label with your phone, and it actually plays a video on the label of the wine.
It's a QR code?
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. The one thing that we were talking about, the difference between being video and actually in the room, is where I testify in court cases involving canines as an expert. And they hire me to do these things, and every so often they say, well, we can't really afford to fly out here or whatever. I said, can we do it on video? And first of all, my testimony is not the same on video.
But what if they thought you walked out and sat in the
There's where...
And that might be a little bit different.
Yeah, so,
look, it's going to take time to get used to this. There's going to be a lot of people who go, you're out of your mind.
But there is a huge difference. When I'm testifying to a judge or a jury, not being there and only on video never seems to work. The closeness, the ability to respond with a facial expression or a hand motion or whatever it is, makes a huge difference being there when you're talking about somebody's life hanging in the balance, right? And they just want to feel you there. So that relationship and that feeling of you present is a big part of it. So video doesn't work for everything. Yeah,
you got to understand what it is that your clients are looking for. I got to sit behind the mirror during a grilling of Fortune 500 CEOs about what they were looking for in terms of meetings, because I was sort of interested in that. They didn't know who we were because they never saw us. But I still remember the guy from 7-Up who stood up and said, he was the VP of marketing for 7-Up, and he said, when I show somebody the can, I want to make sure that they're seeing 7-Up green. So 7-Up green is its own color. So it was very important for that. And then the way other people are using it, like there's a guy who does Asian rugs, and he guarantees them. And the problem is, he sells one in New York to somebody in California, they go back and they say there's something wrong with it. He wants to see what's going on. Otherwise, he's got to get on a plane and go out there. So you start developing technologies like that, and you're using it in a very different way. He now can see what's going on. So some interesting stuff.
Doctor visits too, just as you say that, showing something for your doctor without having to go in to see if you really do need to go in. But I've worked in virtual team environments since corporate years at Cisco. Actually, is part of it. So, but I think it's amazing how this will just make us more effective for the in between. Personal meetings. Right. For the virtual team that we've built for Lars, we've decided it's a quarterly cadence where we need to all be in the room together when we're doing the planning for the next 90 days. That being face-to-face like this is so much more effective than Zoom, which is what our weekly meetings are. But to have, so I think I see us always needing some kind of, to get that connection, but then to be more effective in between and to expand it internationally with the fact that we can now talk to someone in real time and not have to figure out translation.
So you probably remember there's a time when video conferencing came out, and And one of the things that came out was, especially in corporate America, actually there's a group of people that never use it. And these are the C-level people because they like to get together and shake hands. And that was a killer for it. But guess what happened? The economy tanked. So now nobody can go around and dance around and go with each other. So whether you like it or not, you've got to deal with what you have. So it's interesting. And look, this is evolving.
Nabi says that talking wine labels are an Australian innovation, and he put a YouTube link in there for the demonstration of the YouTube. Of course.
He's one of the quality control technicians, right?
Well, just so Nabi knows that if you actually look at the rotation of the Earth, there are vineyards in Australia that if you go around the other side, they're in Bordeaux. And that's why they believe some of the wines, there's a couple of wineries that went from Bordeaux down into Australia. They're doing really well. They're on the same path.
And he also said that Tony Robbins appeared on stage in Melbourne. Did you talk about that?
I didn't see him in Melbourne, but I saw him recently.
Yeah, holographically a year or two ago.
Years ago, they showed it on the internet.
Peter Diamandis goes and appears at a lot of places on a hologram because he then can make more places. And by the way, people believe he's there anyway, so what difference does it make? He's not the guy that's going to stand around and shake your hand and sign autographs.
That's really incredible. I was thinking about application also for large live events. And what I mean by that is the ability for everybody to participate virtually at a live event. So instead of attending Make Market Launch, for instance, instead you attend it virtually, and it gives the event organizer an opportunity to digitally control every aspect of the experience, who you're sitting with, not just what sound you're experiencing, but ultimately maybe it'll be sense and vibration and all of those things. Being able to control that you could attend virtually, but they be able to control the fact that you don't have your phone in your hand, and you don't have these other things that can distract you in your home office because you're kind of locked in at that live event. So there's a movie coming out in a couple weeks, or maybe it's this coming week. Ready Player One. You may have heard some stuff about it. So if you're if you were growing up in the '80s, then it's the book was hilarious. But the premise of it is that people live virtually, and they live in reality. They live in squalor, in slums, basically. But they can plug into a virtual world and then explore the universe and explore really a man-made digital universe. And that type of experience that I think I just described, I think is we'll probably see in that movie. And many, how many sci-fi books and sci-fi movies have come to be, parts of our reality.
Watching video on our phones and answering phone calls on our watches. and all the stuff that's very real now.
Well, and this whole live AI augmentation thing, you just kind of threw that out as a you could be doing a presentation, and an AI bot could be working alongside you basically to augment that presentation.
It could be out there surveying the audience.
So let's see. Blue Jeans has a service now that they bolted in that is supposed to be taking notes for you and pulling out highlights of your event. And imagine, and that's in its most rudimentary form. So imagine what that looks like. We leave a meeting today, and the AI bot has put together a personalized condensation of the event for you. With a combination of slides and transcriptions, audio clips, and other video clips it went out and found online, and it already ordered the books off of Amazon that we discussed, right? So those are they're actually in your mailbox now because Amazon is a 1-hour service instead of a 1 or 2 day service. It's pretty astounding to think.
And like Graham brought up, is that we're already live in tomorrow.
That's true.
And so you can actually get purchases tomorrow in Australia.
There you go.
If you're doing live today.
The newest Outlook, if you have Outlook 365, the newest Outlook goes in, or 2016 if you have that one, it goes into your email and it pops up that says, we found some action items for you. And you click on that tab and it says, it pulls out of the
Emails you
message
received?
that says, it might say, need to plan a meeting, or we need to meet, or something like this. And I'm like, oh. So that they're already doing it
So
with
then
that.
your AI bot gathers up the condensed material that the other AI bot developed from today's event and decides what to do with it, right? And which meetings to schedule. And it schedules it with Jim's AI bot, so because you were going to meet with Jim. And then I don't even know if you need to attend because those bots can talk to each other.
Well, if you think about how we work, right? Because I say we all do the same thing. We're problem solvers. So we run into a problem, we need to do something about it. In the future, we're going to run into a problem, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up a bot. And we're going to say, this is what I want to know everything about, and spawn it. And then go to sleep, and the next morning you wake up, all the stuff that you need is in front of you to be able to work.
Consuming it, learning it.
Yeah, but it's also...
That's the part.
Well, but,
do we
again,
want more content to consume? And
actually, so you got to think a little bit broader on it, and you can basically say, give me the overview of what's going on, because I'm going to ask for certain things. So I'm going to try to figure out, I might want to develop a whole new program. So I might go out and say, okay, so I want to put together something on holographic video for business, and the bots go out and collect everything, and I can tell it what to do and what not to do, but what it's going to do is it's going to, all the time that you spend trying to figure out what's the right thing to see, they're taking that from you, taking that for you, and they bring it in, and then you're able to work on it. And then you can go back out and say, I want more on this and less on that. And then you can put a project manager, a bot in front of it to say, okay, manage this whole thing for me. Only tell me what I need to know when I need to know it. That's what you want to do. I can't, the only thing I can't get more of is time. So I need to figure out how to be more productive with my time. These type of tools will allow us to be significantly more productive.
Oh, you gave us more time today. We're looking to 140.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, actually, I'm
120. That's biblical. That's Moses lived to.
No, actually, my deal is 150.
Oh yeah.
That's your deal?
My deal is what I'm going for is 150, and I know I have to do some more work. I actually was going along really well, and then I talked to my endocrinologist, and he said, I told him what my plan was for this year, and he said, I'm really friends with the guys who were doctors for The Biggest Loser, and they tell me that it's really bad to try to lose too much weight at one time. So my subconscious picked that up, and it turned off what I was doing. I got to get it turned back on again. And I'm looking for the information that I'm getting back from this health nucleus to figure out, how do I prioritize what I need to do? Because I really am going to live to 150, which I thought was really good, because at the time when I first did this back in Yosemite, I was like 68, and I looked at my ancestry. I said, my people don't live more than 70, 71. So maybe I'll do better and get 73, 74. And I was trying to think about what can I do to be able to make some sort of an impact on the world. And then I ran into this. And it said, well, if you live to 150, you're not even halfway there. And I'm like, wait a minute now. I now have more time than I had when I was before. So yes, and from a boomer standpoint, I am the first year, 1946 to 1964. So I was the first year. So all of us are looking for something that we can do. And if we're going to live longer, we need to live better. And if we're going to live better, then we need to figure out what technology is going to help us do that.
Well, I was sad when he didn't come on the hike with us, but now I'm glad.
Yeah.
I really there, but he was invisible.
Right.
Well, I do have the picture of me at the top of the mountain because somebody put it in. Right?
That's what I was just going to say. Since we're talking about holograms and everything, I guess it's appropriate I photoshopped you into all those pictures.
I know. And yeah, my wife said to me, by the way, it's really funny, I finally said something the other day about my wife, Cynthia, and Everett sent me an email, a text message, said, your wife, are you married to her? Oh, only for 26 years.
Yeah, I was clueless. I met her, I don't remember at which event. I think, she is super sharp.
Right. Before we met you.
That came from, we were, started getting to dating each other while we were working in corporate America. And neither one of us wanted it to get out. Because first of all, I had people...
Apparently it worked since I didn't know. Right?
Well, yeah, I had people that reported to me that she had to interact with. And I didn't want them to just agree with her because, she's going out with me. Because I didn't agree with her most of the time. So we kept it very quiet for about a year.
Oh my gosh. So briefly, what does this do for What does this do for us as we're considering marketing? I mean, one of the things that immediately came to mind is with gigabit connections over the entire world. Okay, how much? I mean, I'm pretty sure most of us think of our marketing as targeting U.S., Canada, maybe UK, Australia. Yeah, you're nodding your head because you're a big thinker, but I think all of our marketing, I think, is in English, and it's certainly targeted at an English-speaking audience. And when you talk about real-time translation, I think about this event we're having right here, being simultaneously live streamed and translated into 160 languages. Sure. Then I go, to a population that now has the technology, the bandwidth, et cetera, to watch a live stream on their phones or their tablets or their Google Glass.
There are people in Somalia who are living in ruins, but they have a smartphone and they're connected to the rest of the world. I mean, it's just crazy.
A lot of my How to Publish members are in Africa.
Are they really?
Yeah. A lot of people in Africa.
Now, South Africa,
saying that he has a lot of
like Nigeria,
Hold on. Bruce was saying that he has a lot of people that are in his, because he doesn't have a mic.
Oh, that's true.
A lot of the people that follow him are in Africa.
All right, she's got it.
In a matter of 2 to 5 years, we will be moving from 2 billion people connected via internet to 6 billion people.
Oh yeah, there's 3 billion people being added in the next.
That's
few
a lot
years.
of people with membership sites,
and they're not here.
They're not here.
They're
not English speakers necessarily. So
that'll be super interesting to see how, because there's a portion of our population that's jaded with offers that they've received online, and how will that play out among new populations coming online? I saw some survey or article, and it might have actually been from Malcolm Gladwell or somebody else, but they were talking about some part of the Yucatan Peninsula where they had a store, and people would sometimes travel to the store, etc. But they decided to introduce catalogs to the population. They introduced, catalogs with pictures and all of that, and sales went through the roof. And it was it was like injecting consumerism into these populations.
Isn't 70? I think 70% of Facebook's users are outside the United States.
Sure. Well, it just stands to reason. There's 330 million people in the United States, and there's
6 billion.
2.1 billion people on Facebook. So
I mean, Andy might even get people to watch his show. That would be amazing.
Everybody
Navi watches. Navi watches, and John North watches, who are on right now, and Miguel watches too. He comments quite often. One of the things I was thinking about when I started thinking about that label on the wine bottle, because what it is, there's a picture of somebody on there, and when you put your phone in front of it, it plays the video on your phone. So it makes the label come to life.
It's a 2018
and so I was thinking
QR code.
Yeah, I was thinking about books. And about what, at least for now, and I may be way behind on this, they may have them already, that you would pass over Mike Koenig's book here and put your phone in front of it, and now that video becomes live talking about the next best thing or what's inside the book.
Absolutely.
And then inside you'd have your other pictures that you could hover over, and then it would tell a story of some sort that...
or the glasses you're wearing.
Or the glasses you're wearing.
Will automatically do that.
So the other thing you do is you can write a book, and at the end of the book you have a test, and you have people fill out the test, and then when they're done they can click on it and get a response back about whether you were right or wrong. I mean, this isn't a microwave world which says everything's instantaneous. Pardon me?
Gamify your book.
Well,
He's writing down future book titles right now.
Somebody asked about gamification. I'm really familiar with gamification.
We'll be talking to Bruce about the...
Yeah. One out by the time I get back.
But the thing you got to do... the thing you want to do with that, Bruce, is you want to not only be able to do that, but you gamify it because somebody wins something.
Right.
I'm going to update my new book.
Every time I talk to you, you're updating another book.
Nabi says there's a bot to do the test. Sure. He doesn't answer for everything. Why is there Nabi here?
Well, a bot is a little AI program.
Yeah.
Right.
Next time Nabi needs to make a flight.
Yeah, just ask him why he isn't hearing holographic.
Yeah. Well, he'll tell us in just a second.
But he's got to order.
He's commented about everything.
But he's got to order real cake for us.
That's one thing that I would like people to do that have watched all day, because this is our part 3 of what we've done, is to comment about how you felt about being here with us live on video. And if you thought this was a good format for us, and maybe something we can add to our Business Accelerator group, some of these sessions. I'm not sure, but I would really love to hear how you out there watching it how much you got out of it. Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? And the information.
And if you're out there and not part of the Business Accelerator group, I hope you've realized the fault of your knowledge.
But also think about it.
We won't make these available all the time, but this is just a peek inside to what.
Think about how just even a year ago how easy this has been. This has not gone down or broken. You know, we've done this before. The connection it broke. It got messed up. This didn't. This was seamless.
Right.
I mean, and another hat off to Brendan for making it seamless.
But it can be seamless from our own offices too.
Sure.
Yeah,
it's really about bandwidth too. I mean, there's more and more bandwidth. And everybody talked about when the internet crashed, and I was around then. The reason it crashed was, if you remember, this was in the year 2000. The average speed into a home was 56 kilobits. 56
on a modem.
kilobits. And then the next thing was nobody trusted the internet, and nobody would put a credit card on it. And then they blamed technology for the failure. No, it just had to catch up. And as soon as it caught up, all of a sudden everything's opening up. So,
Nobby says the presentation is brilliant, just like being there, but one step removed.
Yeah, without the cake.
Without the cake. I have cake. I actually have cake in it.
Yeah, that's true. You do. That's true. All right, everybody, let's give Jim a hand.
Yeah, nice job, Jim.
Oh, by the way, I have the hard drives
pass out those flash drives.
So
this is one thing the people watching don't get.
You don't get
is these memory cards.
So just so you know, it's really, you go in there and it's all thrown all over the place. So you just have it sort by kind, and you'll see that there's areas, and you can go in and look at, if you're interested in what's going on in longevity, and you click on that, there's a couple of different things with longevity, some from a couple months ago and some from the course from Diamandis I took last year. But hopefully it puts you in the right space to be able to get going and start to learn something about it. I didn't think everybody's going to be an expert. What I want to do is have people think about, okay, so if this is true, how do I use it? Because as that first slide said, if you know what's happening and you understand what's happening for technology and resources and capital, that's the other thing with capital. Diamandis says there's enough capital around to do anything you want as long as you can position it right. And that's true.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Hey.
Awesome. Let's have Kendra, can you help hand out the flash drives? It's awesome. So now what we want to do is, Bruce was kind enough to get a gift for everybody here. So we're going to hand those out, and then Bruce, you can...
Just one more thing.
Go ahead, Jim.
So the other thing that's on these... Pardon me?
I need a card reader.
No, you plug it into it. It's a USB drive.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. So there's one other program on here. People were talking about Facebook Watch. I was at Mary Smith's thing a couple weeks ago, and I put together part of some slides. I couldn't put them all together because I don't have the rights to use them, but I put them on there, and you can watch, and there's some slides on there about Facebook Watch.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are we still live, or is it my phone? Do you still see us?
We're live.
Okay, good. Because I was thinking, the moment we say that technology has a broken...
Okay.
Graham says, excellent, Jim. Love your work. So nice job.
I agree. I agree. I mean, that's super cool.
Yep.
So we asked Bruce to come up and talk a little bit. He shared his latest book on one of our calls, but now we all can have it in our hands. And so come jump in the middle here, Bruce. All right. So here's Bruce's book. I want to publish my book, but I don't know how. Everything you need to know to create an ebook or print book. So first, tell us why you made the book.
This book, I've been working on this for years, and it answers the most common question asked in my How to Publish Your Book group, which is, I want to publish my book, but I don't know how. Usually, please help me.
Okay.
So I was able to, it was a question that was posed in November from a member, and I had this in bits and pieces in lots of ways, and then I said, that gave me the motivation to put it together.
So now the first thing people are going to say is, that is one butt ugly cover. and we want to give you grief over that, but we know you're crazy like a fox. So
it does remind me of Frank Kern handed out a book like this.
It's exactly so. So in my office, I have 1 million books, and I have Frank Kern's yellow book, and that sits, and I pull that out, and I use it as an example a lot. And part of the reason is wherever I am in my office, I can find that book. It's so clear.
It's so ugly.
It's so ugly and so clear. The other thing that it is, this was designed to be used on video, so that I can put it like this, like I always do with my books, and you can see it. It's designed to be small or big.
Look at it. Hold it way back there.
Yeah.
We can still read it on the monitors.
Right. So
how often can you say that about any book cover? Of course, he did print it extra large too, but still.
But it's designed to work in a demonstration video format.
Yeah.
So it's not the fanciest cover ever made, but it was designed for a specific.
The inside is beautiful. You got pictures, colored pictures on the inside, and you did a great job on the inside.
So now you went color on the inside. Tell us why.
I went color because I just wanted to make the best book I could, and I wanted to make it just look the way that I wanted a book to look.
Okay.
My other books are usually black and white, and I said I just want it to be. It's a manual. It's written like a manual.
Yep.
To be treated as a manual. It's to answer the questions that pop up. So it has the frequently asked questions that people ask in my group constantly. I'm sick of answering that question. It's too big a question. I need to send people something to answer it. And then it's also designed in modules. So it has a frequently asked questions section. It has the 12 steps, which I have 7 of those videos posted. So I'm making videos for each of those sections. It has an Everett O'Keeffe inspired section.
Oh, I bet that part looks good.
It's really good. You had asked me.
Thanks, you got it.
A year ago, maybe 2 years ago. Do you have a self-publishing checklist? And I went, I should.
Well, it was mainly because I wanted it.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So I had it in bits and pieces. So this is from your request. I put together a self-publishing checklist that will become my lead magnet.
And you're going to gamify that too.
I'm going to gamify that.
Right?
Now. Right.
So you're going to have a scorecard and someone can just run down the thing.
Do something with it. Also, I have some of you have heard my top 10 technique for writing a book. It's hard to explain it, but I put it into this book of how to make it's my top 10 technique I use.
What about giving them to free, they pay for shipping type of strategy?
I definitely could. I just haven't. I'd have to just go around and do that.
So on that topic, you did it through CreateSpace, and what's your unit cost?
My unit cost. This is the most expensive. So the sales price is $24.95. The unit cost from CreateSpace is $11.07. So these each cost $11.07. I took off expanded distribution. Yale talks about taking off expanded distribution.
Let's hit that real quick. So I always found something in our group and has shared it and has saved us really a lot of money, right?
Yep.
And that is if you are publishing through CreateSpace and you're trying to get your copies available on Amazon as cheaply as possible, or set your own print your own author costs as cheap as possible. The one button changes it by
like $5,
30%,
a lot,
40%.
Enough that you're like, oh hell with it, I don't need expanded distribution.
Yeah. So that is it. When you're doing it, if you just have it selected to distribute on Amazon, then your unit cost, like this book, if it weren't color, how many pages is this?
It's 146.
So that would be $2.50, roughly.
Also, I did bleed.
Color.
I don't know whether the bleed adds more, but there's a little bit of bleed.
So just so you know, as far as I know, bleed or no bleed doesn't change the cost.
Right.
It's just color versus black and white. But you did an awesome job. What he did is not only did he put his graphics in color, but you saw those chapter dividers, those sexy chapter dividers, where he did those in full color, full bleed, edge to edge. And
that's my editor. That was my editor's suggestion. He said, you should just do some fancy page dividers. It's the first time I've hired an editor. So.
Yeah,
I mean, I've used my sister before, but now I hired a real editor.
So everybody's
She's an editor, but I fired.
You fired your sister.
I fired my sister.
Wow, how did she react? Did she fire
doesn't
you?
know yet.
Well, she's watching. She's watching. It does now. It's like tweeting that the Secretary of State.
Yeah, I know.
Got fired
So
by
a couple other.
Hi, Melody Rush. Welcome to the show.
Other things Melody. I did is. I always tell people use the back of your book to sell yourself and your products. So there's my bio. There are some of my other books.
And your other books.
And some of my other products, because this is your sales card.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing that I did with this book is to get it up fast. And if you're not using Kindle Create, which I'm going to be doing some videos on, it is an amazing product. I took the PDF of this file, ran it through Kindle Create, made 15 minutes. Did the table of contents, shoved it up onto Kindle. The problem is somebody contacted me immediately and said, I'm visually impaired and I can't read your book because the PDF doesn't work with the visually impaired part of Kindle. So then I went and copied the text out. It's like, okay, just copy the text out. Screenshotted. Making graphics in Kindles was always just a huge pain. I just find the graphic. I just took Grab on my Mac, screenshotted the graphic, and threw it into the Word file. No care about anything.
PPI.
I don't care. Just threw it in there. It's beautiful.
It looks great.
I have the iPad.
And I'm guessing though that when you uploaded this through CreateSpace, you got the warning, the non-blocking error about DPI of graphics.
No, I don't get those warnings.
You didn't get that? So normally, no. if you go through CreateSpace to put graphics in, if all your graphics aren't, I think 200.
300. Yeah, they're all 300.
I think we think of print should always be 300. I thought that CreateSpace would flag it if it was 200 or less. But a lot of
for less. It does, but
yeah,
it's not that they won't let you do it.
Nope, they'll let you do it. That's why they call it a non-blocking error. Yeah, so they'll let it go through, but they'll warn you that it won't be. Might not look that good.
Mine are all 300.
But a lot of them look good.
Yeah. Well, how are these 300 if they're screen captures?
So there's screen captures in the Kindle version.
Okay. I thought you meant in the print version. I apologize.
So here is I don't know if you can see this. This is that graphic in a PDF. So the quality is just.
We can't hear him.
It's his mic. Yeah, we can't steal it from him.
The quality is unbelievable. So then it's I'll just.
Not great. All right, we can throw it out there for questions. Does somebody want any questions, comments, etc.?
And then I turned around and made it into a regular flowable Kindle book, and I've uploaded now both books, which I didn't know you can do. So I have uploaded the PDF version of my book, and I've uploaded the Kindle.
It almost looks 3D.
The quality's
it's fantastic.
If you don't have Kindle Create, you have to go do it. But watch this. I can just click here, and every page of the book is right here underneath. And it also has a clickable table of contents, which you can never do tables of contents in PDFs before.
And you're not in the Kindle app right now.
Yes, I am. I'm in the Kindle app.
Is that the version you pulled that someone would get from the Kindle store? Or is that okay?
Yep.
All right.
But I can see that on my computer also.
Yep.
It will do the same thing.
Exactly the same thing. Yeah. So I have two Kindle versions up. I have the PDF version of it as it is formatted by the pages, and I have a text version just like a traditional Kindle book for the readable visually impaired, which would be every other book.
Melinda, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a question. So back here, when you have the transcriptions, because I know that we've talked about Rev before, but then you have the TEMI.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you used the question is, how much time does TMI really save you if there's a ton of mistakes? Tammy and I were talking about this last night, actually. She uses Rev.
So what I've learned is you need to speak clearly and distinctly if you know you're going to be transcribing. If you're kind of sloppy and you go along, I don't know, if you do that kind of stuff, it's going to be messy. It's not perfect, but it's 1/10 of the cost, and it's done in about 15 minutes. So it's good enough.
That's the computer-generated transcription of what you're saying.
Yeah. So what's your experience of doing that with interviews when you can control your own speech pattern, but you can't control?
I've only done one. It was fine. I mean,
it's fine.
And realize that whatever that tool is now, 18 months
it's going to get better. And if it's really bad, go to Rev. Just take the same file and throw it on
So
Rev.
Jen told me before, I'll give her the credit,
On Monday.
that there is...
On Monday, Mike gave me
that Mike gave her. There's Otter, like the otter that swims, .ai, and Mark and I tried it before. You just have to stop for a second if you want a new sentence or a new paragraph, especially you had to stop. But I trained it first, but Mark hadn't trained it, and his stuff came out the same as mine, pretty much. But that was Mike said that's the best one he's found right now, and it's free right now.
So I'm starting to use the Temi one for videos a lot now for blog posts. Make a video.
Why not?
It's like $1.50.
Why not?
It's like so cheap,
I got a couple questions. Jasmine asks, where do you find Grab in Word? And it's not in Word. On a Mac, you have it's an app on a Mac that allows you to grab and do screenshots.
It's in the Utilities folder.
Yep.
And you just go to Utilities folder, and it's on every Mac. And
Control-Shift.
That's a different thing.
That's a different thing.
They have several, but Grab's in the utility folder. It's been there for years, and it just does a beautiful job of quick.
And then Jasmine asks, where can I buy the book?
On Amazon right now. Just go to Amazon. It's
where books are sold.
Where books are sold.
I just wanted to say that. Yeah. And then Nabi says, Rev works best if you speak English instead of American.
Oh.
So it doesn't translate Australian?
That was good. Yeah. That was very funny. Bruce, thank you for the gift of the book to everybody. He did this at his own expense. Yeah. And remember, these are colors, so they were not cheap. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you.
And here's one for you, all of you watching. Nah, it's you should have been here.
If you want it. If you want a copy, go to Amazon.
Yeah, go to Amazon.
That's right, or your Kindle. You can get it on.
And Steve Dent put the link in the comment section. Thank you, Steve. And you didn't use your affiliate code? Are you kidding me?
I don't have an affiliate code.
That's what you use mine.
At this price, you could have done okay. All right, so
that was good. This looks really good.
It does.
And I don't think the yellow is ugly. I think it's beautiful.
No. I just had to give him grief over it, but it follows a tried and true strategy, and you may be familiar with the yellow postcard marketing. In fact, it was technically called the ugly yellow postcard method, and it's the same. It's the same idea. Make it visible. Tammy was talking earlier about how she had a sign at a bus stop that was same type of strategy and was very, very visible. People saw it from miles away. So you had something else you wanted to add, appariding.
No. I just think I did my most successful. I had a client.
Walk over here so you're on the camera.
A client who was a corporate consulting firm and did courses and things like that, big time. So, and my most successful, I did the direct mail for them. The most successful card was a red card, just red with white letters that courses are available or something like that.
Yeah.
That was the most successful of anything that we ever did on any project I ever did.
Yeah, just super.
This is the follows the don't make me think philosophy. Just make it really, 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 really clear.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And the benefits are clearly spelled out. Here, you can take that in case people have questions.
It's funny, when you were walking up, I thought, why is Bruce giving away Frank Kern's book?
Oh.
Couldn't figure it out.
That book is just a transcription of a talk.
Yep.
That's it.
So I don't know if any of you are familiar with David Fry. He's the author of the Internet Marketing Bible, and he's a friend of mine. And this style speaks to him. Like, this is every sales letter he's ever written. Okay, its impact is the font, right, and your primary colors. And he put a post on Internet Super Friends, I don't know, just a couple weeks ago, actually, that was, when someone can show me how, that my sales letter format is less effective than theirs, then I'll switch. Because right now he still is using, the pages are white, but the fonts and the colors are exactly like this.
Graham Reese says, our book comes out tomorrow thanks to Bruce Jones. He is the book guy. We would never have got this 243-page full-color recipe book done without his teaching and coaching. You are a true legend.
Wow, that's awesome. That's great.
And Jasmine just bought your book. She found the book on Amazon.
Yeah, check your rankings tonight.
Yeah.
See if we.
This went to I released it. I didn't do anything.
You don't have a mic?
Didn't do anything. Because I just was too busy doing too many other things. I went to number 9 in Kindle with just pushing it out there. So
just releasing it.
Just releasing it. Yeah.
Well, terrific. You also were promoting it just in your group. You said it.
Yeah. The power of having a Facebook group. I just pushed it there, and people just bought it.
So we have limited time available.
We do.
And like to see if we can get through, at least one more topic over here.
It'll be tight.
Yeah.
It'll be short.
It will. I'm thinking.
Because we still have to announce where we're going for the retreat.
Yeah, well, that's why we're ending at 3:45, so we'll have time to do that offline. Yeah, offline.
All right.
So let's talk about delegating and outsourcing. Yes.
I can talk about a little bit of that.
Please.
So we have over 1,500, actually today 1,523 books on Amazon. And a lot of that is because we have figured out our system and then now we delegate it and outsource it. Now they are personal people that we know that we hired, and they're 1099, but we have the system in place, we have it set up properly, and we make sure that we do so many books a month that we're hitting our goals.
How did you, were these people in your personal network
yes.
that you developed, basically?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so,
one girl that was already on our team, and the other person was in our network of people we already knew.
Okay. How many hours a week do you think they're doing work for you now?
Less than 2.
Really?
Each.
Less than 2 each?
Yeah, so 4 hours a week.
And has it been, has that been, over the last 6 months, does that play out, average that, you think?
Yeah, about that. Actually, there's one more person, so I had 2 hours for her, too. I forgot about that.
And you have
So we have a cover person.
1,500.
We have 2 interior people.
And you have over 1,500 books out on Amazon right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, by the way, everybody, that's Jen Foster. If you want to reach out to her,
yeah, just type in Amazon Elite Journals or Elite Online Publishing, and you'll see all of our books. We have guest books, planners, fitness journals, happy journals, bucket list journals,
pineapple journals.
We do have a pineapple journal. That was our bestseller last year. This year, our funeral guest book is our bestseller. Celebration of Life funeral guest book. So a lot of fun stuff.
How do you manage your outsource? How do you manage the people you delegate to?
Just send them emails.
Okay. So are you?
If we were using Trulio or something, we'd probably get more done.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about Slack or Basecamp or
Or is it Trulio?
Trello.
Trello. I don't know how to say it.
You don't use any of those.
Trello, not right now.
It just says, here's an email. Hey, I need you to do this.
Yep. Then they get it done, send us the invoice, and we pay them, and they're so happy.
Do you use a Google Doc or anything like that, or Google?
Yeah, we use Google Docs for everything.
Yep.
For everything.
And Canva.
And Canva.
Those are our 2 go-tos.
So you guys are able to do your editing or revising of documents in real time.
Yep, on Google Docs.
Utilizing the Google Doc. And what are those people doing for you? If you don't mind.
Yeah, so we have a cover person. She's our design. So she's creating our covers. We do have quality control in-house. Melanie and I do quality control on those covers, making sure they're within the guidelines. They look how we want them to look.
Okay.
And then we have the 2 interior people, and they're basically attaching, uploading, doing what they
need. And they're doing the Create Space and Kindle side, or just Create Space. Yep. Okay, so terrific. Now, how many of you delegate and outsource some or big parts of your work? Okay, a lot. How many of you have 5 subcontractors that you work with? 5. Yeah, 5 or more. Yeah. How many of you have 10 or more subcontractors that you work with? Okay, so the biggest is somewhere north of 5. Mark, how do you manage your subcontractors?
So I was just going to say it's a lot of email, typically a phone call, but we don't, since I do a lot more than, I'm sure others do other things other than books, but so I've got people to do those kinds of things, but I've got a company, we do newsletters. So I've got a company that does all the newsletters, and they have a staff that calls and interviews the client for the articles for the newsletter. They handle all of that stuff.
Bliss.
I talk to them once a week and talk about what's coming up. We have a conference call periodically to talk about the next couple of months and pre-plan all that. I got to make sure my clients tell me, we go through 6 months out what we want to, so that we can pass that on to them and they can plan for what to do and how to manage that. Video, I've got somebody now doing whiteboard video, explainer videos, and outsource that. We tell them, here's what we want, here's the content, go. They upload it, we give them the access to upload it to our Wistia account, and then we manage it from there. So
how did you find your people?
Mostly just through networking. I think I'm pretty well networked in the whole marketing community, and it's just finding the people that have a passion for very specific media. And I've gone to Bruce, for book stuff a couple of times, and I've got a couple more projects coming.
Yeah.
So it's finding great people that have a real expertise in a particular media, and then leveraging that.
Well, speaking of great people, I mean, the Publish and Profit, Mike Koenig's had put together a great community of people in Publish and Profit, and I think all of us met through either that community or one just like it. But that's one of the reasons why to be in the Publish and Profit product and in training, because in there you will find somebody that does some aspect of something you can't do.
Or don't want to.
Or don't, yeah. No,
that's right.
I don't want to work.
Yeah. Do you struggle at all, Mark, with deciding what to outsource or not? Like, do you find yourself doing stuff that you afterward go, why did I do that? I should have had that guy do it.
Occasionally, not often, because pretty much anymore, I want to work on strategy and working out the strategy, and whatever we decide to implement, let somebody that really wants to do that do it. I can go in and fix landing pages. I can go in and, I know most of the tech at least well enough that if there's an issue, if there's a problem, I can go in really quick and fix it. But I don't want to spend the hours it takes to really put it all together.
Okay. Does anybody here have a story they want to share about a nightmare outsourcing story and how they solved it? So there, just as a funny aside, some of you came to the first retreat where John Riding shared his Fiverr story. Yeah, so he put out a request, and I'm trying to remember what the request was.
It was for the plane.
Was it airplane land? Oh, it was for Ed. It was for Ed Rush.
And they showed he showed it at one of the events.
So he wanted to create, have a Fiverr videographer create a basically a bumper of an F-18 fighter flying overhead or flying right into the screen. It was something like that. And what he got back was this strange animation of, what was it? Was it a frog in the water, a fish, and a balloon. A balloon fell down and popped, and inside it was a cat. Is that what it was? Yeah, and that was just the strangest thing. And so it reinforced certainly a lesson that if you are trying to seek people you're going to outsource to, of course, be really crystal clear about what you want. And I find, in fact, I just recently outsourced a client's website to a web developer. And all I did was I interviewed the client about what changes they wanted done to their website. I took, copious notes of that. And then as soon as I got off the phone, I pulled up a screen capture software, and I just recorded myself walking through the website, basically relaying all the same stuff. Of course, I guess could have just recorded the interview with the person, and I sent it to my web developer, and then I said, so here's what I need done. What will it cost me? And and can you break it down for me? Like summarize what I really want done here. So he came back with, oh, I see what you want. You need it to be in WordPress. We're going to need to add this plugin and this functionality and this type of thing, and could communicate back to me very easily. By the way, doing it that way, I saved some money because my first discussion with the web developer came in at one price. But when I showed really crystal clear expectations, that price dropped substantially because he knew I was serious about it. And doesn't every web developer, every web developer's nightmare is, I won't get clear direction, and I'll get the content kind of dribbled to me, if at all. And me as a web developer, I'm supposed to put together a final product and and website hampered by those things. So I think those clear expectations to your subs is obviously super critical, and the screen capture and video is great. Mike, I know a lot of times will he'll send out for here's a project. Here's some things I like. Here's examples from somebody else that I like. Let's do something like that, except I want this, that, and the other. You're writing notes down like you had something really good to say.
I was trying not to, for people to know what I was doing.
Oh, okay.
I was going to ask for Linda to go see if Mike was available.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Please. We're very subtle. We're very subtle that way. Kendra, you work with a team. Oh, sorry. I just cut you off.
No, it's you.
So, two things to add. When we were talking lifestyle and the way we want to design, we do it annually. We probably should do it more than that, but it's called Delegate and Elevate. And I don't know if Dan Sullivan first did it. The book Unique Ability that he wrote, so it's a workbook that goes along with it. You're kind of finding what your unique ability is, what you enjoy doing, what's going to give you joy. But then Delegate and Elevate is documenting everything that you are responsible, everything you have to do in your business, and then just start line iteming the ones you like to do, the ones you know need to be you, they're critical to the business, so it still needs to be you, and then the stuff you hate to do. And it kind of helps you look at what's the first things that you can start outsourcing. Critical to the business, but you might not like them, not necessarily things you want to start outsourcing right away. But those that you know you don't like to do and they're not critical to the business, get them off your plate so that you're using your best use. So that's things that we kind of go through annually. And then I'm just trying to think if there's anything else with the team itself. Oh, we use Trello to document everything, and we're getting rid of a VA right now, but the one nice thing is, because she just wasn't grasping the concepts, but we'll be able to immediately plug in a new VA because we have everything documented really well of what we need to do. Very administrative. We get a new client, there's things that they need to be set up correctly in the membership site, all that kind of stuff.
And it's all built into cards on Trello, so
Trello
your VA can't miss
video. We do video to walk them through it, and then highlighted checklist that's written so that you don't have to watch the whole video every time, but they can go back and make sure they're actually checking the box that we need them to do each time. So we've done that with the ones that are, especially if they're client critical, where the client's going to notice if something wasn't done.
I'm glad Kendra took that, because that's exactly what I was going to talk about. Is my assistant is the person that does everything that I can't stand doing, including yelling at customers for not paying on time and that kind of stuff. I am not that person. I will just kind of, I hate conflict, and she's really good at handling that stuff for me. So, also she's in Idaho. I'm in Orange County, California, and it works. She used to work in the same office with me, but she lives in Idaho, and it works just the same. I mean, it
probably works better
for her. But we get a lot done. We use Google Docs. That's why I brought that up. Google Docs is really good for us because I write a lot of reports, and so she has it's easier access, and I can see her making the changes while I'm on the same document. All that stuff really is helpful, but an assistant is invaluable. It is the one thing that I could not do without. That's the first person I would hire. Yeah.
And the other thing with Trello I just discovered is if you can add in an add-in on your Outlook, and you can click on it, and if you have an email that you want to send, it sends a card to Trello and creates a card with the email information all in it. Mm-hmm. So as you're delegating authority, instead of forwarding an email, you can just track it on Trello, what the person's doing.
I want you to show me that. That'd be super cool.
I think you have it. Do you have an outline or something you need to follow to find the right person? Is there a trick for finding that and not wasting your time?
Yeah, I think there's a lot, and I know we've talked about that on calls before, and we don't have time to run through it right now. But yeah, go ahead, Kendra.
One of the things we have is called an accountability chart. It's very similar to an org chart in the corporate sense. But what we do is we analyze this every time we're setting our goals for the year, and then it's what does the company need in terms of the core functions for that year in order to meet these goals that we've just now set for ourselves. And most of the time we're in multiple boxes because we don't need people, but we have to identify the core functions to do what we're currently doing today and what we know we need to accomplish by the end of the year. So it's a great way to identify the critical areas for your business, and then also being able to compartmentalize what you're responsible for, how you're going to hold either that person or yourself accountable to making sure those things are filled. And then we decide, okay, that's a box. I can sit in it for now, but it's not the best use of my time. That's who we're going to actually hire this quarter. So it's a way to kind of analyze that as well.
That's cool. Let's throw that over to Bruce while it's going over there. One of the things I've gotten in the habit of doing, and I'm grateful for Pam Hendrickson talking about SOPs, standard operating procedures, is when I find something I'm tempted to do myself just because I know I can, and I'll just get it done. But my VA or someone else can, then I'll just videotape myself doing it once and then share that out. And that's now, I now have a folder called SOPs. And anytime someone goes, hey, how do I do this or how do I do that, it's now there's the Dropbox link, instead of dealing with it. Yeah.
Can you just give a sort of rough pricing estimate of what a virtual assistant costs per hour, and then just sort of in your lives, which aren't all that different hours, sort of how many hours a week do you?
Are we allowed to do that?
Yeah. No, it's just budget.
Sure.
Because it's not us.
So whatever you want. So I have 2 assistants that I work with in addition to other subcontractors. But there's one assistant who is in-house. Okay, so I decided I wanted an in-house actual employee, basically because she handles so many different things, and I wanted that extra level of accountability. And so someone like that, obviously, you're going to hire that person depending upon their abilities, $15 to $35 an hour, right? But now you got to carry workers' comp and that kind of thing. Is Mike going to come? Is that what that is?
Looks like he's on the call.
Oh, you're delayed? Okay. I mean, your flight's delayed. Sorry. And then, but I have another one who I think is in the Philippines, and so she's around $5 an hour. Okay. But I find I can trust her with certain. I mean, she's very trustworthy, but everybody has different skill sets. I know that Nabi was setting up at one point, a whole team in the Philippines that could do absolutely everything. And if you check out 123 Outsource or some of those places, they'll set you up with a full-time Philippines VA that you can monitor virtually. You can require them to work in your time zone, which imagine what that looks like. And you can go crazy that way if you want to. But most of my VAs I've found through Upwork, or whatever it was. What was it before? Elance? Elance. Yeah, that's where I found most of them. Okay. And a lot of it was just being super clear on expectations in the hiring, requesting samples, and then Mike would say, try out several. Right, and that's one thing I do love if you're looking for someone on editing and that type of thing, is say, edit this page for me and send me the markup copy so I can see what changes you made to it. I've found that's huge. And then if they're going to do phone work for you, have them set up a phone number for them to call in and answer questions. So that you can just hear their voice and how they think on their feet and all of those things before you ever spend any time on the phone with them personally or in an office interview, because there are those people who, the second you meet them, you want to, you're trying to bite your leg off to get it out of the bear trap and run away, so.
Yeah, but I find recording a very valuable thing.
Recording your instructions.
Yeah, and I do that all the time. How to use Kajabi, how to get in there and contact, or find the contacts that are within Kajabi that we need to contact people through. It's just so much easier because I only have to do it once, and they keep it on their computer, and they go, how did I do that again? Because sometimes it's not one of those things that they do every day in the beginning.
Yeah.
Instead of me having to re-explain it to them again next week, they just open up the video.
They can open up the recording again.
Saves me so much work.
And then you see on your bill, well, I spent an hour rewatching your video, right?
My videos are only like 2 minutes long.
Yeah. I'm actually going to be firing a subcontractor this week. She doesn't know it yet, but I hope she's not. And if she is, well,
it's like Twitter with text work.
It's not. It's Lauren. Don't worry, Lauren. It's not you. Okay, there you go.
Graham Reese says he uses Loom to quickly make a video on that process and then put links in a spreadsheet.
If you're on a PC, one tool I found which is really great is called Screencast-O-Matic. And but I can't. I think it's maybe $10 or $20 a year or something, and it's just really great for making training videos or screen grabs and sharing them. It'll host them digitally for you, so all you're ever sending is the link, and that's super cool. And by the way, you guys may have seen this. Andy gives me such grief about being a Android user, as does Mike. Right? In fact, Mike says he won't work with anybody who doesn't carry an iPhone. Well, I'm living proof.
Luckily, we're a team.
I am living
an
proof
iPhone.
that's not true.
No, because we're a team. So
it's
he's
you.
able to make a little
It's
bit
you.
of
That's what it is.
Well, at least
That's
part of
what
the
it
team
is.
knows what they're doing.
That's okay. It was, but I shared that video of Diamandis, and he doesn't use an iPhone. He uses an Android.
He might have hit
so
his head.
I feel like I'm in pretty good company there.
Right, he's using a Samsung something,
Yeah.
which may not be in.
And he's probably
what else
getting
would
paid to
it
use
be?
it. It's probably, product placement.
Yeah, that could very well be.
He probably doesn't really even use that in real life, just when he's on stage.
Berlinda, was Mike available? Was he going to come? On a call. All right. Well, I think we need to wrap this up so we can so we can privately
on this
reveal.
broadcast I mentioned what today is.
Yeah, well, you mean your 59th birthday? Is that what you mean? Do you want us to sing happy birthday to you again? Let's do it. I just know it's a good way to end. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. That's not why I did it.
And on that note, let's end this live cast of the Business Accelerator group. And if you're ever interested in joining us virtually or in person, just message Andy or I personally, and we'll work that out.
Just real quick, one of the reasons, does anybody have the dates for the next Publish and Profit? Anybody have that handy?
It's June
5th through 7th?
June.
Like 4th, 5th, and 6th, I think.
First week of June.
First week of June is the next Publish and Profit. So make sure, we'll put a link in the comments section. I'm not sure if anybody has any one of those links now, but we'll make sure and put that in the comments on all the videos.
Yeah, people
so you
need
guys
to be
can,
there.
Become a member of our team.
Well, that's right. So attend Publish and Profit, and then invest in certification to really do it right. So, all right. So thank you again. Thanks again to Mike Koenigs for allowing us to use his studio for our event. And trusting us.
At Nobby.
Yeah.
He just said, thank you, Everett Andy. It's been great. I got no work done this morning.
Is that what Mike said?
That's it.
Nobby. And Nobby said that. You were welcome, Nobby. We do everything we can to make you.
I think all of Australia was busy. Graham was on.
They were all
was on. Nobby was on.
What time is it in Australia?
Have the year of your birth on Facebook.
What?
56.
It only says
I'm 56.
March 14th.
Unless he opted in to your 22 social gate, then you would know.
I don't want the chicks.
Then
Since
you
I'm
would know.
single, I want them to believe that. The chicks. Did I just say chicks on my video?
Wow.
Hashtag.
Okay, Harvey.
No more, or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Only 59-year-old guys.
This is quickly descending.
Dames. I don't want the dames to know that I'm.
There ain't
in my
nothing like
50s.
a dame. Nothing. Oh, sorry. All right, everybody. So thank you, and we are signing out. Goodbye.
Dang.
Okay. I don't need a microphone. Now we're out.